Good evening and a warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us for this year's memorial service. My name is Simon Pendlebury and I am the funeral director at Lloyd Funeralcare. It has been mine and Lisa's enormous honour to have been able to care for many of your loved ones this past year. Before we start today, I would like to thank everybody here at St Michael and All Angels Parish Church in Bramhall for their help, and in particular to the Reverend Callum Piper as well for allowing us to hold the service in his church today. Though we may be apart from one another, we can take comfort from knowing that we are all together in this act of remembrance.
Good evening, my name is Lisa Taylor and I'm the funeral arranger at Lloyd Funeralcare. As we come to the close of what has been a most unusual year, it's our privilege to lead this memorial service for you. We imagine there will not be a day that goes by where you do not think of the one you have lost. But we'd like to honour them today and pay our respects to all those who have sadly passed away this year.
We know that in the time we have here today, we are not able to tell all the wonderful stories that we have heard over this past year. But we want to thank you for letting us hear those stories. We want you to know how much it has meant to us to be able to listen to you tell those. We know just how unique everyone we have looked after this year has been, and each of you hold memories that are precious and perhaps have offered some light in the darkest of days that we have all witnessed. Our service today will offer a moment of private reflection. We will listen to music, and we will come together over words of comfort. And we will read poetry that hopefully will encourage us to live each day, honouring those we love. I'd like now, if I may, to start our service by reading a poem called My Memory Library, written by Sarah B. Blackstone. This poem encapsulates the power of holding on to the memories that we have of those that we have cared for. It highlights that these stories of laughter, of smiles, and of better times will stay with us, and they are there for us when we may need picking up. Imagine if I was given one moment, just a single slice of my past. I could hold it close forever, and that moment would always last. I'd put the moment in a safe within my heart's abode. I could open it when I wanted, and only I would know the code. I could choose a time of laughing, a time of happiness and fun. I could choose a time that tried me through everything I've done. I sat and thought about what moment would always make me smile, one that would always push me to walk that extra mile. If I'm feeling sad and low, if I'm struggling with what to do, I can go and open my little safe and watch my moment through. There are moments I can think of that would lift my spirits every time, the moments when you picked me up, when the road was hard to climb. For me to only pick one moment to cherish, save and keep is proving really difficult as I have gathered up a heap. I've dug deep inside my heart, I found the safe and looked inside. There was room of lots of moments, in fact hundreds if I tried. I'm building my own little library embedded in my heart, for all the moments spent with you before you had to part. I can open it up whenever I like, pick a moment and watch it through. My little library acts as a promise. I'll never forget you.
This year has been a very challenging year for all of us. It's felt like we're constantly being told what we cannot do and that this is wrong, or that is bad, or that we must not do such and such. But what we don't seem to focus on is what we can do. You see, we can remember, we can love, we can hope. We must continue to hold dear to us the memory of all those we care about, whether near, far, alive or not. We can remember the good times. We can remember the smiles, the happiness and the joy those we love bring. They say that grief is a journey. They say that there is no right or wrong when it comes to feelings of loss. This is true. The journey of grief is unique and personal to each one of us. But the one thing that is the same for us all is that grief is the price of love. We invite you to take a moment now to reflect and use this moment to call to mind all those memories that you may have in your own library within your heart as we listen to our first piece of music. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed. Some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places had their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before, I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. Some of you will recognise that these are the lyrics to the song In My Life by the Beatles. They are more than just lyrics, however. When we strip the music from these words, they become familiar. When we read them and take them in, we realise that they tell a story that we can all relate to. We can all follow the meaning and can all empathise with what is being said. though I know I'll never lose affection. This is why we're here today. We may have lost a person we love, but we have not lost the affection for that person. The words I've just read articulate that quite plainly and come together in the simple sentence which sums up nicely that in my life, I love you more.
We will now take a moment to reflect on what we have heard so far, and we ask that if you are in a position of being able to do so, that perhaps you take this time to light a candle in memory of your loved one, as we will light a candle for them all. At this point, we will now hear a reading from Reverend Callum Piper.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
Thank you, Reverend Callum. I think it is important to acknowledge that there is a time for everything, but you must not feel that your time to grieve has passed or that it is over. There is no time limit to be adhered to when it comes to loss. We must all learn to adapt to our new life and in our own time. And as we talk of there being a time for everything, we now come to the time in our service where we read the names aloud of those that we have lost. We do this to remember them, to commemorate them, and to honour them. To the memory of Neil John Tate, Dorothy Mary Bayman, Gordon Johnson, Georgina Mary Tilley, Cynthia McAdam, Lois Mary Andrew, Robert Dennis Vaughan, Nellie Eileen Grimshaw, Sarah Dabrowska, John Martin Bagley, Joan Fiddler, David Walter Thomas, Kathleen Bennett, Graham Wolstenholme, Geoffrey William Hall, Carol Morley, Leslie Daines Paulson, Elsie Paulson, Maureen Patricia Gordon, Hannah Louise McGurdy, Brenda Billington, William James, Joyce Rabina Ramsden, Andrew Sylvester Thornley, Doreen Sylvester Wright, Donald Charles Ladley, Mary Betty Fitton, John Frederick Haywood, Lewis Craig Holland, Alexander Rudyard, Margaret Elizabeth Mitten, Irene Faye Hurst,
Leslie Goby, Beryl Thornycroft, Malcolm Charles Donaghy, Doreen Spivey, Vivian Elizabeth Downey, Peter Entwistle, Patricia Ann Heap, Alan Blease, Sheila Marjorie Goddard, Ian Charles Jepson, Graham Norman Pointer, Margaret Ross Reynolds, Layla Collins, Derek Shaw, Brian Sullivan, Ian Griffiths, Catherine Sheila Singleton, Pamela Mary Holbrook, Charles Joseph Zentek, Kenneth Green, Patrick John Andrew Moore, Frances Elizabeth May Davison Minns, Margaret Alderson, Joyce Barbara Faulkner, Marcia Ann Rinch, Vincent Pegg, Janice Boyd, Rosemary Jean Boot, Douglas Michael Colley, Margaret Wills, Alexander Hay Taylor, Jane Newis,
Margaret Elizabeth Wrigley, Dennis Ragg, Alan Eric Shepherd, Barbara Victoria Loftus, Stephen Eric Eldridge, Margaret Rostron, David Maybon Taylor, Maria Giuseppina Derbyshire, Patricia Mary Noble, Kenneth Melvin Marshall, Carol Holcroft, Philip John Horton, Kathleen Smith, Brian Percy Newby, June Esther Craven, Martin Frederick Lossy, Kathleen Washington, Keith Bold, Dorothy Ann Stoddard, George Benjamin Gawley, Roger Garnett Cheetham, Rita Phyllis Jones, Philip Godfrey Wheeldon, Jean Elizabeth Ford, Anthony John Wilson, Doreen Galloway, Robert McLennan Galloway, Brian Anderson, James Brian Woodhead, Alan Ramsey Kirkman, Winsome Thelma Acebit, Joseph Peter Morgan,
Roy Neville Johnson, Donald James Brown, Hilda Farnworth, Rod Kilgore, Maureen Novello Barker, Clifford Edgerton, Kevin Barker Thompson, Gordon Williams, Philip Arthur Newton, Lucy Margaret Mottershead, Harry Funge, Joyce Sykes, Reginald Sykes, Kenneth Huxley, Susan Ferber, John Hind, Ronald Dickon, Gaynor Ann Worley, Margaret Foster, Geoffrey Edward Dunstan, Helen Esser, Ronald Peter Davies, Kevin Richard Eyre, Jacob David Wimpney, Ralph Nettleton, Audrey Maud Street, John Kemp, Derek White, Philip Andrew Einson, Kevin David Pridgeon, David Jameson Pridgeon, Danielle Emma Hesford,
Gordon Wallace, Graham Butterworth, Irvin James McKee, Alison Gale Thornber, Edith Joyce Salloway, Walter Pearson, Bernard O'Hearns, Leslie Harold Turner, Eric Williams, Ronald Graham Marsh, John Stewart Whitaker, Howard O'Neill, Ian Graham Keith Fennick, David McManus, Ronald Ernest Mason, Keith Broadhurst, John Slater, Joyce Carruthers, Graham Keith Markham, Alma Wilkinson, Eva Ruth Davies, Eileen Hazel Holt, Thomas Patrick Mills, Ellen Jones, Sheila Elizabeth Naden, Margot Mary Hughes, Hilda Lewis Dawson, Jack Dennis Massey, Francis Wilson,
John Anthony Fort, Ronald Collier, Peter John Baskerville Williams, Vida Florence Edith Atwood, David Gradwell Potts, Glyn Wiseman Williams, Daisy Clare, Nancy Bickley, Man Chan.
We acknowledge there are names that have been removed from this register at the request of their families. We honour those and their memory also in private.
We now ask that you take this opportunity to bring to mind your own happy memories as we pay tribute to those names we have just read.
invite you to join with me in the words of the Lord's Prayer, if you wish. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
It's important to remember as we come to the close of the service that over the coming days, weeks, months and years, you'll be reminded of the one you have lost. This may be a smell, a memory or a sound. It may be something they liked or something they didn't like. But whatever it may be that brings them to mind, take a moment to say their name aloud to yourself and perhaps take some comfort from the memory it evokes. I want to extend to you all an invitation to keep in contact with us. If you need to talk or if you need us for anything at all, we are here for you.
I would again like to thank all at St Michael and All Angels in Bramhall and to Callum for helping us with this service today. To close the service this evening, I want to thank you all for trusting myself, Lisa, and the wonderful team that I work with at Lloyd Funeralcare for the honour of looking after your loved one. We know that the pain of loss does not end when the funeral ends. I will end, if I can, with this thought from John O'Donoghue. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed, and when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you will have learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air, and be able to enter the hearth in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time.